back in AMS2, this time just to take a quick look at VR settings. I wanted to show the settings that I'm using because they're working really well for me. I haven't had any issues running this game, but someone had asked on Reddit for my settings, so I thought it'd be easier just to do a quick video showing you what they are instead of trying to capture all the screenshots. But for VR, I have the super sampling in just down to 1.0 for this, so basically turned off for Automobilista 2, and I use the super sampling in Steam VR settings to do the super sampling. For some reason it seems to, I don't know if it works better, but it works well. And unlike ACC, you cannot make a lot of changes to your settings in AMS2 while in game. You'll get a pop-up mentioning that you probably have to do a restart for some of the settings to take effect. So that's part of the reason too why I just leave the super sampling to 1.0 in that menu. But for this stuff doesn't matter again because we're in VR. But lowering this resolution setting may be helpful just because your computer's its mirroring display is doing less work. Texture resolutions, you can usually do textures pretty high as long as you've got the video memory to do it. So I'm using a 2070 Super with 8 gigs of RAM, so textures aren't a problem for me. If you have lower memory graphics cards, you might turn these down, but I really don't think it's much of a problem. And I'm only running windowed here because I record and I like to be able to switch windows easier. So this windowed works good for me. If you're not doing recording, don't worry about the windowed part. VSync, you don't need this on for VR. Texture filtering, this is something that can be a little taxing, I think. So I'm setting it at 4x, and you can see in my videos it works really well for me. MSAA, again, AA is one of the bigger, I guess, resource draws for your graphics card. Medium has been fine for me. It looks really nice. I could probably try turning this up, honestly, because it's been running so well for me. But this is a pretty easy setting, or I think a pretty good setting to get good visuals and doesn't impact performance too much. Reflections low. Environment map medium. A lot of these graphic detail settings you can turn down in VR a bit just because things are always less clear in VR, right? So there's no point in forcing your computer to draw highly detailed things when you can't even make them out once it actually gets into the VR headset. I keep car detail high because I like to have the cars looking as good as they can. If you're having some stuttering or if things aren't running super well, you could turn this down probably to medium. Track detail, kind of the same thing. I like the tracks to look nice too. I think medium's probably good. I haven't tried experimenting with low, but I imagine you probably get some frame rate back with low, but it might start making things look just less nice. Shadow detail is another really big one. This, along with the AA settings, can have a very big impact on your performance. Shadow detail medium seems to be running really well for me. In ACC, the shadow detail was so important because I think there's a lot of shadow pop-in in whatever engine that ACC uses. I don't notice pop-in in Automobilista 2. So shadow detail medium for me has looked nice. The cars look well shadowed and look connected to the track. And if you don't know what I mean by that, if you have shadows low in some of the other sims, it makes the cars look like they're floating above the track because the shadows information is really what kind of visually shows you where an object is in space. I haven't bothered turning enhanced mirrors on. I also haven't noticed any problems with my mirrors. They look fine to me. Motion blur, it's a personal preference thing, but I don't need any motion blur added to VR for me. Rendered frames ahead, I honestly don't know what this is doing, but I think you probably need to keep this low for VR. I think I remember hearing something along those lines for a similar setting in iRacing. I've got grass set to low. And again, everything just looks fine to me. I don't think we need to to get into some of these higher settings. Particle levels, I am still seeing, backfires from the shifter cards and dirt being kicked up by cars that go off track. Particle level medium seems to be working pretty well, and density medium, same thing. So those are my settings for AMS2. I don't think there's anything else really to look at. We can look at visual effects, but this is more just how you like things to look. It's just personal preference stuff, and you can turn those on or off as you like. But that's really it. Those are my settings for AMS2. I hope that's helpful. It seems to be one of the most efficient racing sims to run in VR. iRacing works really well too. This looks more impressive. This looks more realistic than iRacing to me, but iRacing uses the single pass stereo technology that NVIDIA has made available, which somehow just draws one image and uses some sort of wizardry to make the stereo image. I really hope that other sims incorporate that, because that has worked really well in iRacing, and I'm really hoping that works its way through, especially to something like Race Room. But the problem is, I think Race Room is on such an old engine that it's probably not ever going to happen. But boy, I think that would really help with Race Room. But anyways, hope that's helpful. See you next time.